welcome to Mr. Ben Coaching Tuesday Training Tips. I thought I'd do what I would think is probably quite good now if I was back into the cycle season. Racers, non-racers, recreational cyclists, it's all worth going, of what to try and do when you come back from cycling. When we finish cycling, the last thing we want to do is stretch. Those who are very, very regimented, hats off to you, but we all, when we feel tired, especially if we're doing a hard session, we feel like, oh, I want to get in the shower and eat, which of course is just as important. But if you've got 5 minutes, maybe 10, to do a bit of stretching, it really will help you improve your cycling with your position on the bike, less aches and pains possibly, reduce the risk of injury, and you will maintain it. None of us getting younger. I'm 44, in 20 years time I still want to be able to cycle competitively and I still want to be flexible, so it's doing it regularly. If you cycle 5 times a week, stretch down. If you cycle once a week, still have a routine of stretching, mobilising the spine, stretching the muscles, ligaments, tendons, etc. So I'm going to set the timer and I'm going to do a little bit about it. The one thing you're going to have to do is to know how much you should stretch. It's a bare minimum 30 seconds. When I do my hamstrings, mat-based classes, personal training, I always tell people to stretch for a minimum of a minute. I often stretch between 90 seconds and 2 minutes when I do my hamstrings. Areas where you are stiff, like I've got quite good quad flexibility, I can sit all day like this, but hamstrings are a real issue for me, so I need to spend more time on it. So I'm going to do a little routine of what I would do when I come back from cycling. I'm not going to talk too much, and I'm also going to reduce the time. So I'm going to go from one exercise to another, maybe just 5 or 10 seconds, but you can add your duration as minimum 30 seconds per movement into your post-cycle stretching. Okay, before we carry on, if you've got any injuries and any effect the exercise is going to do, sit them out. If you're not sure, get checked before you do it by your local sports massage therapist, physio, etc. Okay, so when I finish cycling, obviously you put your bike away, you might give it a clean, etc. But if you can, just dedicate 5 or 10 minutes at home or your office or studio to do some post stretches. Okay, I'm going to set the timer. Off we go. So when I'm at home, I would go into hip rolls. Great for stretching out the lower back muscles and mobility of the spine. I would probably do 12 of these. Then from here, hands by my side, I would just start to do a few little shoulder bridge type movements to articulate the spine, to enable that lower back that's been in a funny position on the bike for a long period of time to free up, and we're stretching the muscles around. I would then bring my knees to my chest, give myself a little hug, rock side to side, feel the muscle around the lower back, the soft tissue, the deep and superficial muscles. I would then come from here and bring one leg up. I would just do a few hip circles, probably 5 per side, to work the hip mobility. As we get older and older, our hips become stiffer and stiffer if we don't do that. Okay, in cycling, we're doing everything, and running, we're doing everything in a straight line. But running is also quite invasive on the hips, so it's important to do some hip mobility as well. Then I would then come onto my side, stack the hips up, bring the hands in front, use a pillow or ball underneath, and do a few chest openers, stretching out the chest and shoulders and a rotation. And I would probably do 6 per side. I'd then come onto all fours, hands under shoulders, knees and the hips into a neutral spine, scoop in the belly, and I would do some cat stretch, which basically mobilises the spine and addresses the areas where you've been sat on the saddle, the flexion of the spine and the extension of the spine. I'll probably do 6 of these. Then I would go straight into thread the needle, soften the elbows, reach, twist through the spine and rotate. So it's that exhale, inhale. Again, probably 3 to 4 per side. I would then go into like a modified downward upward dog, where I'd walk the hands forward, soften through the elbows and lift the breastbone up, hold that position, 5 breaths. Watch you don't drop the hips because it'll hurt the back. And then I'd go back, sink down for another 5 breaths. And perhaps repeat this for 5 or 6 times in total. Then I would drop down, if I could, to onto my heels to stretch out the quads. If you can't come into heels, doesn't matter. Sink down, bring the hands in front to stretch out the big lat muscles. 10 to 15 breaths is more than enough. And then what I like to do now is a form of Pilates exercise where we lie on the front and we reach our legs. If you can't reach your legs, use a band, and we stretch out the quad muscles and the hip flexors. And if you're flexible enough, you can take the legs off and you can come to this position and drop back down. So it's that inhale. If you've got lower back problems, you just stretch out the quad muscles. Again, 30 seconds is absolutely fine for this. And then I would come to a seated position and stretch out the abductors, something that doesn't get worked in running and cycling. So we cross over, left leg over, right, hug, pull towards you, feel the stretch through here, and sit tall. Again, 30 seconds. So if we work on the opposite side, so you can see, right leg over left, and rotate. Okay, which then brings me to a seated position. If you struggle and your back's like this, then I want you to bend the knees, sit tall. So we're going to go into a spine stretch now. So if your knees like this, you'll stretch through. If you're flexible enough, you can work in this position. And you'll come forward, inhale, exhale. And I would do 6. Then cross-legged, straight-legged or bent knee, doesn't matter. Bring the hands into prayer position, shoulders down the back, and work rotation of the spine now. So we exhale. Think of a corkscrew, sitting tall as you rotate, lengthening the spine. Okay, so that's rotation of the spine. Classically, when you cycle, you overlook lifesaver manoeuvre. Then I would bring my feet in front, sit tall, and just stretch out my adductors. If you run a lot, really important to this position. There. I'm quite tight through here, not super tight, but I can feel the stretch. Again, 30 seconds is a bare minimum. Inner, outer thighs are done. To stretch that piriformis, you come onto your back, bring a leg to there, like that, or bring this up, and gently stretch, and you get a sensation of the hip rotators. Now this side is tighter than this side, and you'll find that when you do it. It's definitely tighter. This side's more comfortable. This side for me, much more tighter. And don't force the movement. It's a subtle stretch. Again, minimum 30 seconds. So far, looking at the clock, there's 5 minutes 56. I was a bit optimistic being 5 minutes, so it's a little bit more than that. I'll then come onto my back and get a band to stretch out the hamstrings and the calf muscles. So we stretch through here. One leg can be flat or raised. Flex a toe to accentuate the stretch here. Now I always take a long time because my hamstrings are quite tight. So again, minimum I think 30 seconds, but realistically we should be stretching more because cycling particularly, we don't fully extend the leg. If you're running again, you still get tight hamstrings on there, and then change legs when you do that. To stretch the calf muscles out, I always like to stretch them on the edge of a step. I don't bounce, I just gently drop them down and hold them in a manageable stretch. So we're focused on calf, quad, hammies, glutes, outer, inner thighs. Let's just come onto our front just before we finish and do a little bit of extension of the upper back. When we cycle, we're very rounded. So I like to teach people to bring their hands to this position, pull in the abdominals, connect the glute muscles, shoulders down the back, and gently inhale. And exhale. The secret of this is to lift with your, don't lift with your lower back or you'll hurt yourself. And as you get more competent, you can start to extend up more. And then you can drop into child's pose to release. And that, Okay, this took me 7.5 minutes, but with a bit of talking to you. You can adapt it to how far you need. It is going to be a little bit longer, but you don't have to do every one of those exercises. But if you can get a routine of that, even if it's once a week, you will start to improve your flexibility. And if you watch my other videos, the components of fitness, flexibility is a really important thing for cycling and running and swimming, etc. Because if we have restricted range of movement of the joints, we can't fully use the body to its full potential. So we need to keep stretching the muscles and mobilising the spine. Okay, hope that helps, guys, and I look forward to seeing you next session. Take care, bye-bye.